spicy. Jimmy Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of burned that bridge?
We'll say this. Gardner Minshew is the best backup in the NFL.
I love Gardner. Welcome to 30 Minutes of Football with Legit Football, the only NFL show that gives you everything you need to know in just 30 minutes. It's Friday. We're heading into Week 6, which means this is the preview and game pick show. Once again, joining me, Tanner Kern from Cold Hard Football Facts. Back for Week 2 on the show. Tanner, how you feeling this week, man?
I'm feeling good. Hopefully I do a little better than 6-9 against the spread. The one thing I did notice, though, every time I'm coming on, I guess we have a bad Thursday night football game.
I hope that's not a trend going forward. I'm hoping. I mean, it can't get much worse. We actually said that last week, and it was close to getting worse. We're going to dive into that dreadful Bears-Commanders game before we get into the picks. But quickly, before we start the timer, visiting last week's against the spread, you mentioned that you went 6-9 on the show. You did say before we started recording that you switched your Eagles-Cardinals pick, so at least that helped you on the money. But you didn't do the worst amongst us. No winning record, so let's throw that out there. I finished 8-8. Tanner, as you said, 6-9. And Rich, Pro Football Demon, 5-11, buddy. So we got to get that going. We are going to change things slightly in that we're also going to start adding straight-up moneyline picks as well, and we're going to track those. So maybe Pro Football Demon, you could do a little better actually picking the winners, not just picking the spreads. Tanner, are you ready to get this Friday game picks party started?
Definitely.
Awesome. 30 minutes of football with Legit Football. Game Picks edition starts now. So as always, we're going to go ahead and put Rich's picks at the bottom for those that are just listening. I will list Rich's picks, the Pro Football Demons picks for each of these games that we go through. Tanner will give his picks. I will give mine. And I will also give a confidence rating, in this case between 1 and 14, because there are 4 teams on bye. We'll quickly go over that Chicago-Washington game we mentioned. Washington ended up pulling out the victory, a whopping 12-7. We at least got a touchdown, so I guess that's the silver lining. Bears had a chance to win it. They had 3 red zone trips that ended with 0 points. Tanner, any amazing takeaways from this pretty boring game?
So I had Washington -1 last night, which was great for me. Obviously, they did not deserve to win the game in any right. Chicago should have won when you have the ball inside the 5-yard line 3 times, was it? Or inside the 10 at least. You can't do that and expect to win a football game. So when actually Chicago got down to the 5 at the end of the 2 or 3 at the end of the night, I was like, I still feel okay about this because they haven't been able to get in the end zone. So why start now?
And credit to Pro Football Demon. He also picked Washington. We had our first 30 Minutes of Football doubleheader. We had an hour show yesterday, so he picked Washington. I was the only one who picked Chicago. If Darnell Mooney holds onto that ball in the end zone, then we might be talking differently. But this was my least confident game. This is just one of those, it could have easily gone either way. It almost went either way. I'm hoping that this is the last of the bad Thursday night football games, Tanner, for all of our sakes. Let's go ahead and dive into the Sunday game. First up, we've got the Miami Dolphins hosting the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota favored by 3.5 on the road. Tanner, I'll let you get started with this one.
So I look at Minnesota and Miami. Miami obviously had a very, very rough week. Tua, I don't believe he's going to play. Do we have any?
Tua has been ruled out. Teddy has not, but they've said that Skylar Thompson is going to start. So if Teddy is cleared in time, he's going to be cleared as a backup. Rookie Skylar Thompson will be making his first start for Miami this week.
I'll be on Minnesota in this football game. I think they started to figure out some things last week, got a little better. Now allowed their opponents to crawl back in the game, which wasn't good, so they weren't able to cover. But I think Kirk Cousins, he's good enough to get the job done as long as it's not in prime time, as we said last week. Justin Jefferson's been sensational this season, so I think they get the ball to him. They'll be fine. Miami is going to have a tough time without a quarterback in there. We saw it last week at the end of the Jets game.
I am picking Minnesota to win this game, but I am picking the Dolphins to cover. I'm hoping that's not my Dolphins homerism coming through, but the Vikings, they don't cover. Like even last week, they were favored by 7.5 against the Bears. They only won by 7. So I think that's what I'm going on. The Vikings just have a way. historically of playing to their opponent. They're just not really built to blow anybody away. And I think we're going to see that. Miami has some playmakers on defense. I'm not that confident in their offense, which is why I'm picking Minnesota, but it is in the Miami Heat. They have a great record in September and October when they host teams at home, so that's kind of what I'm banking on. Pro Football Demon agrees with you. He is picking Minnesota to win and to cover. Let's go to Cleveland, where the Browns are hosting the New England Patriots. Still undetermined who's going to be starting. As of now, Mac Jones has not been medically cleared. He has been practicing in a limited capacity, so we have to assume this is a Bailey Zappi game. Going up against Jacoby Brissett, former Patriots quarterback in Cleveland. Who do you have here?
Cleveland's looked really good, and I think I got to go with them, even at 3.5, being at home in this football game. Their ability to run the ball behind Nick Chubb, I mean, he's had over 100 yards in 5 of 6 games, I believe. He's hit his rushing total in every single matchup. He's been really, really good this year, and Jacoby Brissett's been awesome as well. I mean, Cleveland's ranks really high in passing stats this year, so I'm going to ride with them, even though I am a Patriots fan. Whether Mac's in or not, I still think, if he's playing, he's going to be a little hurt, and Bailey Zappi, we saw last week, he's not going to do more than manage the game, so I'm going to ride with Cleveland.
I have been burned by Bill Belichick in the past 2 weeks. I mean, a Dolphins fan. I've been burned by Bill Belichick for 2 decades, but I feel like I'm not giving enough credit to him as a coaching on the defensive side of the ball. You're playing a former quarterback, a Patriots quarterback, Jacoby Brissett. We all know that Bill Belichick likes to take away your best weapon, far and away the run game here. If you get up on Cleveland, you actually mentioned this previously, Tanner, that it's hard to expect the Browns to be able to come back with Jacoby Brissett as quarterback. So I actually like New England. This is one of my upset picks of the week. I just think that they will limit that run game because Belichick will focus that Patriots defense on it. I don't trust Cleveland enough with Jacoby Brissett to be able to at least win. So I'm very confident. I'm a 12 confident that New England will cover, but also in my straight up picks, I've got the Patriots winning. Pro Football Demon aligned with me. Maybe it was because we're both AFC East fans and we just want to see we just been burned by the Patriots for so long. We just believe that they'll find a way to win. Yeah. Atlanta Falcons hosting the San Francisco 49ers. Atlanta getting 5.5 points here. How do you see this one playing?
I'm going to go with San Francisco, so I'm on the favorites already, all 3 of them so far. I think San Francisco's a better football team. Obviously, their ability to run the ball and play great defense right now has really, really come together. On top of that, too, Jimmy Garoppolo's finally starting to get into a little bit of a rhythm. He didn't play at all in training camp, right? They were trying to trade him, trying to get rid of him. So now that he's dialed in a little bit, and throwing the ball down the field, I do like San Francisco. I think Atlanta can make this game interesting, but like last week, the Buccaneers allowed them to crawl back in the game. If San Francisco just shuts the door like they did against Carolina last week, they will cover the spread.
I am going with the spread here. I've actually picked Atlanta to win this game as well, and here's why. Atlanta has not lost by more than 6 points, and that was last week. And who knows how that game would have ended up if that Grady Jarrett roughing the passer call didn't go a different way. I like how Atlanta is coached. I like how they match up against the 49ers. 49ers are also dealing with a lot of injuries. Emmanuel Mosley lost for the season last week. Eric Armstead, Javon Kinlaw have already been ruled out. Nick Bosa, the number 1 pass rusher in the NFL right now, has not practiced yet. He hasn't been ruled out for Sunday, but they've got all these injuries. I think Atlanta can control the ball at home. I think they're going to be motivated after that defeat last week against their division rivals in the Patriots. I'm sorry, the Buccaneers, the Tom Brady team. So this is one of my upsets. I don't feel great about this. My confidence is only 3, but I am picking Atlanta to cover and to win. Pro Football Demon is aligned with you on this, Tanner. He likes San Francisco. I do think San Francisco has the better roster. I mentioned this on my appearance on the 49ers Rush podcast yesterday. This isn't a matter of talent. I just like how this game sets up for Atlanta at home with that Arthur Smith offense controlling the clock. Let's go to Pittsburgh, fresh off their absolute drubbing 38-3 against the Bills last week. They get to host the aforementioned Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay favored by 8.5 on the road. Your thoughts?
I mean, I think last week, at least we saw that, 1, Buffalo is really, really good at football, but 2,
yes, they are.
Pittsburgh just struggles. I mean, Kenny Pickett threw for almost 300 yards, I believe, but still was not that efficient with the football, and they couldn't do a thing to stop Buffalo. I think Tampa Bay needs to figure it out a little bit. Obviously, they're still in a little bit of a lull on offense, but 8.5 points is not too much. I mean, I'm very comfortable with the spread. I see you have a high confidence rating. I think they figure it out this week. They're able to throw the ball down the field, run it with Leonard Fournette, and hopefully mesh against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
We are all 3 fully aligned on this. Pro Football Demon, you and I are all picking Tampa Bay to cover this. I think this is a great matchup for, you mentioned that Bucs struggling offense. Pittsburgh has one of the lowest pressure rates in the NFL right now. I cannot overstate how much they miss TJ Watt on the edge, and it has shown up week in and week out. So they're playing bad on defense. They're not efficient on offense. They can't get a run game going. Yes, Kenny Pickett threw for a lot of yards, but that was almost game script. And I like Pickett better than Trubisky. There's your silver lining if you're a Steelers fan. But at 8.5, I just think this game sets up for Tampa Bay to kind of exercise some of their offensive demons to start the season. Let's go to New Orleans, where the Saints, fresh off that shootout victory over the Seahawks, are hosting the Cincinnati Bengals with that tough last-second loss against their division rival Baltimore Ravens. Saints are 1.5-point underdogs, so Cincinnati favored by 1.5 on the road. How do you see this one?
This is easy. I mean, I see you have the confidence rating of 14 here. Yes. I love this bet with Cincinnati coming into New Orleans. The Saints just aren't that good, quite frankly. And Jameis Winston, if he plays this week, he's throwing more interceptions than touchdowns. You can't really get behind him. And something's funny. I wrote a game preview on this for Forbes Day. Alvin Kamara has less rushing yards this season than Taysom Hill. Now, granted, he had a big week last week. But Taysom Hill is the star of this offense right now. So I look at Cincinnati. I think they're starting to mesh a little bit, starting to play better. Last week was a tough loss. Still did some good things. Look for Joe Mixon to be big in this game against the Saints. They're struggling against the run. I think Bengals cover, win this game by a touchdown.
Yeah, this is my most confident. So there's only 14 games, so I've got a confidence rating of 14. So I am the most confident that Cincinnati would not only win this game, but cover that 1.5. They would won 2 games previously, should have almost won last week, losing on a last-second field goal to the Ravens. And the Saints, as you mentioned, they're just not very good on either side of the ball. They had to play the Seahawks, one of, if not the worst defenses in the NFL right now, in order to put up the points they did last week. Taysom Hill, you're not going to get 4 touchdowns from him. That's a fluke thing. That's not something you can count on. When Taysom Hill is out rushing your star rusher, Alvin Kamara, that's a problem. You mentioned they're having trouble against the run. They're also having trouble against the pass. I think this sets up for a very good offensive output by both Joe Mixon and that Bengals passing game. Pro Football Demon agrees with both of us. We're also fully aligned on this. Take Cincinnati to cover that 1.5 on the road at New Orleans. All right, New York Giants, 4-1 New York Giants. I don't think any of us were expecting to say that going into week 6. Hosting the Baltimore Ravens, getting 5.5 points at home. Your picks for this one?
I do like the New York Giants, I should say, to taking the points there with them, 5.5. Baltimore should have a couple more wins on the season, but they tend to go up big and they give up points late. We saw that last week with the Giants. They were able to crawl back into the game against the Green Bay Packers and find a way to win it. I think it could be similar this week. I don't know if I like them to win. I would probably still take Baltimore on the money line here, but New York at plus 5.5 is too good to pass up considering how they're on the ball with Saquon Barkley and how there are a lot of holes in this Baltimore defense, especially for the Giants being at home this week. I'm going to ride with New York.
We are all three aligned once again, both on the moneyline straight pick and the spread. We are all, Pro Football Demon also picking the New York Giants to cover 5.5. The Ravens, as you said, they haven't really been able to blow anyone out. They were blowing the Dolphins out and they ended up losing that game in the fourth quarter. They've played close to their opponents. I don't trust this Ravens team enough to win by 6 points or more, and put that on the fact that this Giants team is playing so well. They're coached so well under Brian Dable, playing much better than some of their parts. Saquon has been fantastic. So I like this game to stay close, but I still think that the Ravens, being the better team, will find a way to win, especially when you have weapons like Justin Tucker. If it comes down to a field goal game, I'm always going to be picking the Ravens to that. So we're all three picking the Ravens to win, but we like the Giants to cover that 5.5 points. Let's stay in the New York realm. Let's talk about the New York Jets, fresh off their huge victory over my Miami Dolphins last week, traveling to Lambeau Field to take on the Packers, who just lost, as you mentioned, to the Giants in London. Jets getting 6.5 points on the road here. How do we feel about that point spread?
I think it might be up to like 7 or 7.5, or I think it's at 7 in some places still, but Green Bay has the same problem as Baltimore. They can't seem to put teams away. Jets are a pesky football team, right? They look a little better with Zach Wilson. They have really good young receivers. I'm tempted to take the Jets at 6.5, but I do think Green Bay figures it out this week at 6.5. At 7.5, I would definitely be on the Jets, but at 6.5, I think Green Bay can win this game and cover at home. They got to figure it out at some point. The Jets are still susceptible in many different areas of the game. So I'm going to ride with Aaron Rodgers. Hopefully he figures it out this week, but you never know. He hasn't been able to do that so far.
I I might be riding the Jets bandwagon a little bit too much here. I am going to pick New York to cover. I do have the Packers winning the game at home. 6.5 points. I just like the way this Jets team has been playing. That Robert Saleh defense has been playing much better. Sauce Gardner is an absolute star as their rookie star defensive back. They're getting a better pass rush. Green Bay has just not been able to be consistent on offense, and their defense is not as good as it looks on paper. I'm not a big Zach Wilson fan, but they do have weapons. Breece Hall looked fantastic last week, racking up nearly 200 total yards of offense. I think they'll find a way to keep this game close, but I do think the Packers will win. Not surprisingly, Pro Football Demon, our resident Jets fan, is picking the Jets to cover. He's also picking the Jets to win this game. That could be a little bit of his homerism. He's feeling himself, you know what, Rich, good for you. I don't blame you. Ride that big victory, and hopefully you can pull it out against the Packers. My confidence level for this game is 7, so kind of just right at average here as far as the Jets covering. I could certainly see a game where the Packers control the ball, especially on the ground with Dillon and Aaron Jones. Let's get one more preview in before halftime. Jacksonville Jaguars, their second game against the Colts this season. This game in Indianapolis. The last time these two teams played, the Jags won 20-0. And here the Colts are favored by 1.5 at home. How do you like this in their second matchup of the season?
So Jacksonville should have won and covered last week. They didn't do either of those things because they played terrible. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but there was a graphic that CBS Sports put on the screen, which just showed how bad Jacksonville played last week, and it was terrible. They've seemed to regress on offense. Trevor Lawrence does not look as good at quarterback. In Indianapolis, while they're still not a good football team, I think this game being at home with Jacksonville being on a bit of a cold streak right now could be the move. So if this game was in Jacksonville, I'd definitely be on them, but fact that's in Indianapolis after they got embarrassed down south, I'm going to ride with the Colts.
This is a reflection of I don't have a lot of confidence in the Colts. I completely agree with you with how Jacksonville played, but I am picking Jacksonville to win and cover this game. They won 20-0 a few weeks ago. That team still exists. They've owned Indianapolis in recent years, and this Colts offense they have not been able to figure it out. They had to eke out a victory against a more hapless Broncos offense in week 5. Pro Football Demon agrees with me. We both are going with the Jags here. Confidence level of 5. I don't feel great about this. I could easily see this AFC South matchup going either way. But I got to ride with Jacksonville. Doug Peterson figuring it out. I like what they have the talent level on both sides of the ball. Could live to regret that, though. Don't blame me for going the Colts. All right, it is halftime. Anthony, I didn't hear the chime, but I see that we're at 15 minutes. As always, guys, make sure to sign up for Legit Football. It's your free daily morning briefing. We send you the top 6 stories of the day as well as all the latest injury news. Definitely great to keep up with that as you go into setting your fantasy lineups for the weekend. LegitFootball.com. It's 100% free. Enter your email address and get the news sent to you. Tanner, let everybody know where they can find your stuff.
Yeah, Cold Hard Football Facts is the best spot to find my NFL stuff along with Forbes betting. But at Cold Hard Football Facts, we have 22 proprietary stats unique to us that help you with betting and fantasy decisions. We also put some premium content on there, and we're debuting a new graph next week, which gives the best picks against the spread, totals, money lines, player props based on all our stats. So get it on now. You get a free trial, and you can use promo code kickoff at checkout for 50% off.
Great. There you go. Cold Hard Football Facts. Get the data you need to make the betting decisions you need. And follow Tanner on social, and he's got pieces up on Forbes betting. He's got lots of great content out there to help you make your sports betting decisions. This is the guy to see. That's why we have him on every Friday. All right, let's keep the party rolling. Let's go into the second half. We are cruising through these games. So, Tanner, if you've got some player props that we can tag on to the end of this show, go ahead and start prepping those in your head. Let's bring these picks back up. All right. Arizona Cardinals at Seattle Seahawks. We got an NFC West battle for the bottom in this game. Arizona favored by 2.5 on the road. Your thoughts on this one?
So I like Arizona in this game. Now, there was a quote that they said at halftime of last week's game against the Eagles where it was Arizona likes playing from behind. That's where they feel best. I don't feel comfortable about that as a bettor, but in the second half of that Philadelphia Eagles game, they did look pretty good. Kyler Murray can still sling it. They have weapons. Seattle, I think they're playing better than they actually are. I think the Geno Smith effect's going to calm down eventually. Will it be this week? I don't know, but at 2.5, I still like it, even on the road against Seattle.
Yeah, this is once again one of those matchup games. First of all, Cliff Kingsbury in general, they've played very well against Pete Carroll's Seahawks teams. Arizona has had trouble in general being consistent on offense, but they get to play one of the worst defenses in the NFL. The reason Seattle's been competitive has been their offense. The Arizona defense has actually played a little bit better in the past few weeks. They nearly pulled it off last week against one of the better offenses in the NFL and the Eagles. I like how this game sets up. Arizona actually plays better on the road than at home for whatever reason. So I just like how this at 2.5 points. I'm confident. This is my second most confident pick that Arizona will not only win this game, but they will cover it as well. Let me go ahead. I realize that I don't have Rich's picks at the bottom. Let's get that scroll going. He is on the other side. He is picking Seattle to win and cover at home. Yeah, I mean, this is basically a race for the bottom. You lose this game, and you're already kind of making your plans for the 2023 draft in the NFC West with the way that that division is shaking out. Yep. Let's stay in the NFC West. Los Angeles Rams, after such a disappointing loss where they were fairly heavily favored against the Cowboys last week, they could not have asked for a much better bounce-back matchup here at home, welcoming the transitioning Carolina Panthers with a brand-new head coach and interim coach Steve Wilks, new defensive coordinator. Carolina's got injuries. Baker Mayfield is not starting. We're going to see P.J. Walker in this game. 10.5 points, though, at home. Are we confident that the Rams can cover that?
So it's funny, on the coldhardfootballfacts.com, we have our power rankings based off how statistically efficient teams have been. The Rams are 28th in the NFL and the Panthers are 27th. Like, that's how bad Los Angeles has been in multiple areas of the game. With that being said, I think Matthew Stafford does deliver. 10.5 points is a lot, and I hate it with that hook. But you can't take Carolina in this football game. I just don't think they have the capability. I mean, they weren't good with Baker in there, and Baker's one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. So maybe P.J. Walker could get him going.
Can it get worse? I think that's the question.
It can't get worse, really.
Yeah.
So, you look, Christian McCaffrey could be on the trading block soon. And I don't know how that mentality is playing through the locker room right now. I just think at home, you have to take Los Angeles at 10.5.
Yeah, I agree. Pro Football Demon agrees for those very reasons. Generally, with the way the Rams have been playing, I don't like that kind of a spread, but they still have Sean McVay. They still have you've Aaron Donald. You've got Jalen Ramsey. Cooper Kupp is an absolute slam dunk to produce, and you're going up against a Carolina team in so much flux. You mentioned there's rumors of Christian McCaffrey. There's rumors that teams have called for DJ Moore. You've got your third string quarterback in there now. How do you keep a team together? How do you keep a team motivated when there's just so much turmoil? Yes, the interim coach bounce is a real thing. We've seen that in the past. I don't think that happens in this scenario. Steve Wilks was unsuccessful in his 1 year as Arizona head coach. So I just think this could not line up any better for the Rams to not only win this game, but win big and feel good about themselves going into their bye in week 7. So we're all aligned here. Rams to cover that 10.5 points at home. Game of the week, game of the year, perhaps so far, Buffalo Bills in a rematch of that insane, maybe one of the best playoff games ever, divisional matchup from last year, traveling to the Kansas City Chiefs, playing in Arrowhead. The Bills are favored by 2.5 on the road. Here's a fun fact. We put this in Legit Football email today, and I also put it out on Twitter. Patrick Mahomes is undefeated as an underdog. Do we see that playing out again here, Tanner?
Yeah, and I don't think they've ever been a home underdog either in Patrick Mahomes' time in Kansas City. I'm not sure.
Probably not. Probably not. Wouldn't surprise me.
I don't think they've ever been a home underdog. I'm going to go Kansas City, and I can see why you're going with Buffalo, obviously. I think they're the better team, but the fact of the matter is the AFC still runs through Arrowhead Stadium, and until they get knocked off, I got to ride with them. Patrick Mahomes looked really good last week. Like, even when they were down 10-0, I still felt good about Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs coming back and winning that game against the Raiders, because that's just what we've seen. There was another stat on the television. I forget what it was last week, but he's got the best record when down 10-0 of all time. Of quarterbacks. Like, Patrick Mahomes is that good. I still think the Chiefs are very, very good, and I think they're going to give Buffalo a little trouble at home.
I definitely think this game is going to be a shootout. I think it's going to be high scoring. Interestingly enough, Pro Football Demon is picking KC to cover, but the Bills to win. So he thinks that the Bills are going to win by 1 or 2 points, which is an interesting angle to take. We'll see how that plays out. I think I'm a big fan of narratives. It's just, you have to keep that in mind with these games. And the reason I'm going with Buffalo here, 100% can see Kansas City winning this game at home is I think Buffalo has thought all offseason about that coin flip and the fact that that's how that game ended. Kansas City gets the ball, goes right down the field. The Bills, having scored just touchdown after touchdown, they had a historical level of efficiency. I think, what was it, the Patriots game? They scored with seven drives, 7 touchdowns, and they didn't even get a chance to get the ball. I think that has eaten at this Sean McDermott team. I think they've remembered that, so I think Buffalo's going to come out pumped. I think both teams are going to put up a lot of points, but I think Buffalo is better suited, especially without Tyreek Hill on the other side, to end up putting up even more points. So I'm confident right in the middle. I got a confidence level of 8, so you can call it like 50-50 confident level, but I just feel that this Bills team is going to exercise some of those demons, end up getting the last score this time and maybe winning by 4 or 5 points in a game that could easily be like 38-34. That kind of a play out. But I am going to go with the Bills here. Here's the next game of the week. We actually have some real juicy matchups this week. This one I'm particularly interested in. Dallas Cowboys at 4-1. They've won 4 straight since week 1. Travel to the only undefeated team remaining in the NFL, in the Philadelphia Eagles. Dallas getting 4.5 points. Last week, Mike McCarthy said we are nobody's underdog, and I believe the spread was exactly 4.5 also against the Rams. They won that game by double digits. How do you see this game playing out for first place in the NFC East?
I think Dallas wins outright and covers. I think Philadelphia needs to mess up at some point, and this could be a good spot for them at home against Dallas. They're playing really well with Cooper Rush, and I think Cooper Rush is kind of the key to the offense because it seems like they call a much better game when he's under center. They rely on the run behind Pollard and Zeke, and it's really worked well. Run Cooper Rush in the play action game, and the defense with Micah Parsons leading the way is just that good. I think he's going to be after Jalen Hurts all night. Eagles are very explosive on offense, but I think Dallas has a team to contain them.
Yeah, I am aligned with you. I think this lines up so well for the Dallas Cowboys defense. We've seen that when you get Jalen Hurts pressure, that has shown to drastically reduce his efficiency. Arizona did it last week. They did it by blitzing. They don't have as strong of a defensive line. Dallas has one of the best defensive lines in the entire NFL. I think they get to Philadelphia, even though I really like the Eagles' offensive line. I think this game's going to be close. I'm very confident. Probably should have put a higher confident level on there, but out of 14, 9 is kind of one of my higher confident levels that Dallas will cover this 4.5, because I think at worst you're seeing maybe the Eagles win by 3 at home, but I'm also picking Dallas to win this game. I'm aligned with you on this, Tanner. I just think the Cowboys, the way their defense is playing right now, they've only let up a single touchdown in all their first 5 games. That is telling. Even the game they lost in week 1, Cooper Rush has shown that he can steer this ship and that he 0 interceptions. He's not making mistakes. He's allowing the run game and this defense to control it. Eagles have not looked as strong lately. They got, Jacksonville got up to a 14-0 lead. Last week they had to struggle to beat a Cardinals team. I'm not saying that this will end. I still think the Eagles will win the NFC East at the end of the year, but as this game lines up, I like Dallas. Pro Football Demon is on the other side of us. He thinks that Philadelphia will not only win this game at home, but cover the 4.5 points. Excited. Nice to have a primetime game that we can really look forward to. That's the thing. Buffalo, Kansas City is not primetime. It's actually the afternoon game, which is great. So we can get hyped up Buffalo, Kansas City, take a short break, and go into Dallas, Philadelphia. But then we have to deal with the Denver Broncos on their 4th primetime game. We're only in week 6, 4th primetime game. Tell me I'm dreaming here, Tanner.
I mean, I don't hate watching Russell Wilson in primetime. Like when he was walking off the stage, the post-game press conference last week when he's like, Broncos country, let's ride. When he said that walk off stage after a terrible performance, like I think that stuff's kind of funny. I think it's almost comical that we get another Russell Wilson game in primetime. I'm on the Chargers, but I see your confidence rating is low, and I can understand why, because this is a divisional game. Anything can happen in a division game. And Denver's not that bad of a football team. I think they're not well coached. I think Russell Wilson isn't performing to expectations, but one week they're going to pop off and score 40-something points. I don't know when that week is going to be. I hope it's not this week. What Denver has done, I don't have any faith in them covering the spread, but I got to take the Chargers for that reason. But I can see why people would be on the Broncos. I just can't trust them once again.
Yeah, and that's essentially why I picked the Chargers. Not that I feel great. The Chargers' defense, especially on the run game, has not been good at all. If Denver can control the clock, if we can get Melvin Gordon and Mike Boone going, I could see this game staying close, which is why I only have a confidence level of 2. But at the end of the day, I just can't trust Denver. I can't trust their offense. That Russell Wilson, Nathaniel Hackett, whoever you want to put the blame on, probably a little bit of each. they're fresh off 9 points against the Colts, who have not been a great defense this year. So I think when you have the Chargers, we know that Justin Herbert's going to put up point. Austin Eckler has looked fantastic the past 2 weeks. It's looking like Keenan Allen is going to be back. He actually started practicing finally, so he's trending to being back Monday. So the Chargers are getting healthier. While the Broncos just lost their left tackle, Garrett Bowles, so they're going in the opposite direction. Not a lot to like about this game. Not super confident. Division game, as you mentioned, but at the end of the day, I have to pick the Chargers to win and cover. And Pro Football Demon aligned with us. He is going with LAC as well. All right, we've got about 4 minutes left. Guys, I'm going to have Tanner throw us some of his favorite player props of the week. But since we got about 4 minutes, I see a few guys in the chat. If you guys have any questions, it can be fantasy related, sports betting related, NFL, favorite food. I don't care. Let's fill these last 4 minutes. Tanner, why don't you let everybody know some of the player props that you're kind of eyeing this week?
Yeah, so I have a bunch of player props. Player props in the NFL are kind of that's my biggest thing because Cold Hard Football Facts, it's great for spreads, but I found that it's best for player props and daily fantasy and all that. So my first one's Nick Chubb to go over 90.5 rushing yards on Sunday. I know we talked about Bill Belichick being a great defensive mind and his ability to shut down the run, but I just see Nick Chubb going over this total. He's gone over in he's gone over 100 yards in 4 or 5 games this season. He's gone over his rushing total in all 5 games. He's a machine, leading the league in rushing with 593 yards. So I'm going to go with that for my first play. I also like him as an anytime touchdown scorer. I think that's a fair bet, but it is a little juiced at minus 145. With that being said, he's ripping off 2-3 touchdowns a week, so it could be worth taking the chance on that. Another bet that I'm looking for in that game, possibly Ramondre Stevenson anytime touchdown. I haven't locked that in yet. With Damian Harris getting hurt last week, I don't know what his production is going to be. And Stevenson looked really well. We know what Bill Belichick does. He goes with the hot hand when it comes to his running backs. Stevenson proved that he could hold on to the ball and run well last week. I think he might get some more opportunities this week against Cleveland, who's going to try to run the ball. So they're going to try to match pace and control clock. So look for Stevenson to have some production as well.
I love those picks. Guys, if you do not already have a place where you place your bets or player props, if you want a different one, we are sponsored for the month of October by Prize Picks. Prize Picks, super simple. It's just player props. You're going to pick more or less. You can use Tanner's advice that he's giving you to go with that more, Nick Chubb, to go with Ramondre Stevenson. If you get 4 right, you 10x. It's that simple. Use code LEGIT. If you're a first-time user on Prize Picks, they will match your deposit up to $100. Do it. You're getting the information here. Tanner's got the advanced stats from Cold Hard Football Facts. Definitely follow him and go out in there and win some money. All right, I asked for questions. I don't see any in the chat yet. So let's talk about some high level. What are you looking for this week? Maybe just for the NFL. What games are you excited about as we close this show out?
So I do actually have one more player prop.
Awesome. Yeah, throw it out.
Yeah, I got a few more actually. So Joe Mixon over 64.5 rushing yards could be a good one. Bell cow back, obviously. He's been efficient this year. Has not hit this total too much, but he's been good. The Bengals offensive line is starting to mesh. And they're going against New Orleans, who's allowing the 10th most rushing yards per game in the NFL. The Saints are much better statistically against the pass, so I think Mixon's going to get plenty of opportunities to run the football. And then the final plays that I'm looking at here so far, at least San Francisco versus Atlanta, going to go with Jimmy Garoppolo over 224.5 passing yards. I think this game could quickly become a shootout. And the Falcons are not great against the pass. So that's one that I'm looking at. His totals listed at 234.5. Falcons are giving up the fourth most passing yards in the NFL with 278.2 per game. Much better against the run. So I think the 49ers are going to have to work and play action a lot. And Jimmy G's been getting better by the week. So I'm going to ride with that.
I love it. You're getting the information you need to make easy sports betting decisions and make some money this week, guys. We got just over 30 seconds left. I'm particularly excited, I mentioned already, but we've got some premium matchups this week. We did our power ranking show on Wednesday with Jimmy Ray from NFL Stats, and we had the Eagles at 1, I think the Cowboys at 4, and then the Bills and Chiefs at 2 and 3. So the top 4 teams playing each other this week. Bills, KC starts at 4:25 Eastern. Dallas, Philadelphia is the Sunday night game. Lots of good action, lots of players to pay attention to, lots of fantasy. We're right in the thick of things in week 6. Go ahead and say thank you for listening and watching, guys. 3 seconds left. I'm going to keep talking until the game the gong. There we go. I found a way to do it. Thursday is our live viewer question, but if you guys have questions on this Friday, we had an insane amount of questions. I feel like we had about 40 questions with our hour show yesterday. But if you guys have sports betting questions for me or for Tanner, feel free to throw them out on these Fridays. I know that we tend to just kind of run through the games quickly. Tanner, any last thoughts going into week 6 before we wrap up here?
No, I'm excited about Sunday's games, 4:25 with the Bills, and then the late game with the NFC East matchup. So it should be a good weekend of football. Hopefully, go a little better than 6-9 against the spread. Hit some props and have some fun.
Yeah, good luck to all of us. Hopefully, we all have winning records. Hopefully, we all make lots of money. Guys, enjoy the games this weekend. Thank you for watching and listening. Don't forget to hit subscribe if this is your first time here. This has been 30 Minutes of Football with Legit Football. We'll see you Monday. That's spicy. Jimmy Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of burned that bridge?
We'll say this. Gardner Minshew is the best backup in the NFL.
I love Gardner.